On a silent Christmas night, when the house believed it was finally at peace, a sound came from the door that was never meant to open again. A shadow crossed the floor. A familiar scent returned with the cold air. What walked inside was not a stranger, and not a ghost. It was someone who once belonged there. A reunion filled with warmth, fear, and unanswered years. A moment that could heal everything, or quietly break it forever. Stay with this story until the very end, because the truth behind that door changes everything. A Christmas reunion. The father cat who came home in secret. A warm winter story. Snow pressed against the windows like a held breath. The house smelled of pine needles and warm milk. I sat by the radiator, for humming with heat. Outside, bells rang once and fell silent. The floor creaked in a way it never did. Cold air slipped under the door and touched my whiskers. My ears tilted toward a sound that felt wrong. A soft scrape followed, careful and slow. The tree lights flickered as if they noticed too. I tasted metal in the air, thin and sharp. The door latch shifted without a knock. A shadow slid across the rug, long and broken. My paws stiffened against the warmth. The scent arrived before the shape did. Snow, smoke, and a memory of old nights. My chest tightened at a smell I knew. The shadow paused by the tree. Lights painted it green, then red. A tail tip trembled like a secret. I felt joy rise and stumble at once. The room seemed smaller, closer. Breath brushed my nose from behind. I turned and saw the scar on the ear. The scar from the night the door never opened. My heart thudded loud enough to wake the house. He stood there, thinner, eyes bright with frost. No sound came from him, not even a greeting. Snow melted from his fur onto the floor. Each drop sounded too loud. I wanted to step forward and could not. The radiator clicked and startled us both. He flinched like a stranger. The tree ornaments swayed as if pushed. My tail brushed a fallen bell and it rang once. His eyes locked on mine and did not blink. Warmth and fear tangled inside my ribs. The clock ticked like footsteps down a hall. He took one step closer, then stopped. His breath steamed and filled the space between us. I saw the door behind him still open to the dark. Cold poured in and wrapped around my paws. The lights dimmed again and the shadow grew. I smelled the road on him, endless and tired. The bell rang again from the floor. His whiskers twitched at the sound. He leaned forward as if to speak without sound. The house held its breath with me. The silence stretched, heavy but gentle. The door behind him eased shut as the wind tired. Warmth slowly reclaimed the room. The radiator breathed again, steady and calm. He lowered his head, not in fear, but in respect. I stepped forward, one paw at a time. The floor felt solid, familiar. Our shadows touched before our bodies did. The smell of winter faded into the smell of home. I saw the years on his fur, written softly. Not loss, not damage, only distance. His eyes softened, glassy with light. The tree reflected inside them, a forest of color. I felt my heartbeat slow. The house listened, walls leaning inward. He sat down carefully, as if afraid to break the moment. Snow slid from his back and vanished into the rug. The bell lay quiet, its duty done. I reached out and touched his cheek. His fur was cold but alive. The contact sent a tremor through both of us. He closed his eyes. A sound escaped him, low and warm. Not a word, not a cry. A promise carried on breath. I answered with my own quiet sound. The room softened around us. The lights stopped flickering. The tree stood proud and still. Outside, the wind moved on. Time seemed to widen, then settle. He leaned closer, careful and slow. Our foreheads met. I smelled the long road again, but now it felt finished. His tail wrapped around his paws. Mine followed, brushing his gently. The clock kept ticking, but it felt kinder now. Memories surfaced without pain. A bowl shared. A window watched together. Sunlight on the same floor. He had not vanished. He had traveled. The difference mattered. I felt it settle deep inside. The house accepted him the same way. No questions. No judgment. Only space. Only warmth. He lifted his head and looked around. His gaze lingered on the tree, on the lights, on the quiet corners. Recognition moved through him like dawn. He remembered this place. His shoulders eased. I stepped aside to make room. He followed, tentative at first, then surer. The rug welcomed his weight. The walls held steady. The night outside pressed close but could not enter. We sat together beneath the tree. Colors washed over our fur. Red, gold, green. Each one felt like a blessing. The scent of pine wrapped around us. The house hummed softly, alive with shared breath. I realized my body had stopped trembling. So had his. The shock drained away, leaving clarity. This was not an ending. This was a return. He lay down beside me, not touching yet, respecting the space earned by time. I closed the gap. Our sides met. Heat passed between us, steady and real. His breathing slowed to match mine. The clock ticked on, patient. The night deepened without threat. Outside, snow continued its quiet work. Inside, nothing needed to change. I felt his chest rise and fall. Proof. Comfort. Truth. He shifted slightly and sighed. The sound carried relief. I rested my head against his shoulder. The room seemed to exhale. Lights glowed softer, warmer. The tree stood like a guardian. This house knew how to keep secrets. It knew when to open its door. He stayed awake for a while longer, watching, listening, learning the rhythm again. Then his eyes closed. Sleep took him gently. I stayed awake, just in case. Not from fear, from gratitude. The night passed without disturbance. Morning light crept in slowly, pale and kind. It touched his fur first. He stirred, confused for a heartbeat. Then calm returned. He was still here. So was I. The warmth remained. The house greeted the day as usual. No alarms. No rush. Only quiet certainty. I stood and stretched. He followed. Our movements matched without effort. We walked together toward the window. Snow covered the world outside. Clean. New. The past stayed behind the glass. Inside, the present waited. He glanced at me once more. Eyes full, steady. I met his gaze without fear. Nothing needed to be said. The reunion had already spoken. The house held us both. And this time, the door stayed closed.